Okay, could we have the first group? Let us say, because I don't have many, can we give each group 10 minutes? Who can be our timekeeper? 10 minutes for presentation for each group.
I will be the timekeeper.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mawejib. Could we have the first group?
It's okay, Doctor.
Yeah, Doctor, I think if I have a suggestion that
Yes, please.
I think the groups are labeled in letters of alphabet.
Okay.
From A probably to Z, so we can maybe have group A, B, C, D like that.
Okay. Could group A please start?
Okay, Doctor, let me share a screen. We are group A.
Good morning, Doctor.
Good morning to you.
Good morning, colleagues.
Good morning, Nicola.
The group A, and those are the group members. I'm Kasos Nicholas, that is going to introduce group A's work. So since we have 10 minutes, I'm going to be as fast as possible.
I already set the timer. Please continue.
Yes, and could you please go to slide number 2? Part 1 was through the lens of ethical theories so far discuss the merits and demerits of formulating codes of conduct around these issues. So we examined the merits and demerits of formulating code of conduct around the 5 ethical issues in technology. And these include misuse of personal information, misinformation and deep fakes, lack of oversight and acceptance of responsibilities, and the use of AI and autonomous technology. So the first point being misuse of personal information. We on each point we looked at the ontology, utilitarianism, and the virtue ethics. So we explained them in that line. So we give the merit of deontology, which emphasizes the respect for individual rights and protection of privacy. And we believe a code of conduct based on deontology would prioritize the safeguarding of personal information, informed consent, and responsible data handling practices. However, the disadvantage is the deontological principles may struggle to address the complexities of privacy concerns in the digital age. Balancing privacy rights with other considerations, such as national security or public interest, may present challenges. Next slide, please. So, the next theory is utilitarianism, in line with the first point. So, utilitarianism focuses on maximizing overall welfare and minimizing harm. So, a code of conduct rooted in that theory could prioritize the protection of personal information, enhance individual well-being, and trust in digital environments. However, on the side of the disadvantage, utilitarianism may place less emphasis on individual rights and privacy if the overall benefit to society are deemed substantial. So I'll go straight to virtue ethics. Next slide, please. The merit of virtue ethics, it promotes cultivating virtues such as honesty, integrity, and respect. And a code of conduct formed in line with virtue ethics would prioritize responsible handling of personal information and the development of a trustworthy digital culture. And the disadvantage, this may lack specific guidelines for addressing complex issues related to personal information misuse. Additionally, additional ethic perspectives may be needed to supplement virtual ethics in formulating a comprehensive code of conduct. Next slide. Point 2 was misinformation and deepfakes. So in line with deontology, we all know deontological ethics upholds the importance of trustfulness, honesty, and the respect for individual autonomy. So a code of conduct based on deontology will prioritize accuracy, transparency, and responsible information dissemination. The disadvantage of deontology in line with misinformation and deepfakes, this may struggle to address the fast-paced and evolving nature of misinformation and deepfakes. Utilitarianism, in line with misinformation and deepfakes, it emphasizes the overall welfare and minimizing harm. So that is utilitarianism. So a code of conduct would prioritize countering misinformation and deepfakes to protect individuals from potential negative consequences. Next slide. The disadvantages of that, so the disadvantage, balancing the benefits of free speech and limitations on information dissemination can be complex because different ethical perspectives may have varying priorities, leading to potential conflicts in formulating a code of conduct. Virtue ethics promotes virtues such as truthfulness, integrity, and responsibility. A code of conduct based on virtue ethics could encourage individuals to uphold these virtues in combating misinformation and deepfakes. So the disadvantage would be virtue ethics may not offer specific guidance on addressing the complexities of misinformation and deepfakes. Next slide. Our point number 3 was lack of oversight and acceptance of responsibility. Based on deontology, which emphasizes accountability, responsibility, and fulfillment of more duties. If you base a code of conduct on deontology, the principles would prioritize transparency, oversight mechanism, and acceptance of responsibility for the ethical implications of technology. So the disadvantage of that, deontological ethics may struggle to provide specific guidelines for establishing oversight mechanism and addressing the emerging ethical challenges. Based on utilitarianism, which seeks to maximize overall welfare and minimizing harm, our code of conduct could prioritize responsible oversight and accountability to ensure that technology is used in a manner that benefits society as a whole. And the disadvantage, this may overlook certain individual rights or interests if they are overweighed by the overall. My colleague will take on from part 2. Thank you very much.
As an ICT technocrat, we looked at how we could handle these ethical dilemmas based on deontology, utilitarianism, and virtue ethics. So based on deontology, as an ICT technocrat, applying deontological ethics would prioritize adherence to ethical principles and rules. They would assess the situation based on their duty and moral obligations, ensuring compliance with legal professional standards. For example, they would ensure the protection of user data and privacy as a fundamental duty. They would also consider transparency and accountability when designing and deploying AI algorithms, adhering to ethical guidelines, and avoiding biases or discriminatory outcomes. And using utilitarianism as an ICT ignorant, adopting utilitarian ethics would focus on maximizing overall welfare or happiness of the greatest number of stakeholders. So we would do this by ensuring that when implementing new technologies, would assess the potential benefits and harms to individual society and to the environment, would strive to mitigate negative impacts and maximize positive outcomes, would also prioritize accessibility and inclusivity in technology design, ensuring that the benefits of technology reach broader range of users and minimizing digital divide. And then with the use of virtual ethics, would prioritize honesty and transparency, providing clear information to users about data collection, usage, and potential risks associated with the new technologies. Would also promote collaboration and responsibility, fostering an ethical culture within the organization and encouraging stakeholders to act in the best interest of society.
Your time is up.
Doctor, we are requesting for 3 minutes at least to finalize.
Okay, 3 minutes. Please go ahead.
Justin, you can continue from there.
Yeah, I will continue where my colleague has stopped. Conclusive discussion on how you as an ICT technologist would handle the ethical dilemmas that emerge from these new ICT technologies and situations. In practice, an ICT technologist should consider the merits and demerits of each ethical theory in specific contexts. He or she should be engaged in all ethical reflections and dialogues with the stakeholders to be updated with evolving ethical frameworks, legal requirements, and industry standards about the latest ethical use of new technology. We started with ethical awareness. As an ICT technologist would prioritize staying informed and updated on the latest advancement in technology and their potential ethical implications. This includes understanding the society, culture, and individual impacts of this technology. Here we would give the example of the latest TikToker guy for the Kasese incident who misinformed the public. We went ahead to look at the ethical frameworks. There is a need to apply all the ethical theories and frameworks, i.e., deontology, utilitarianism, and virtue ethics, in order to analyze and evaluate their ethical dilemmas and consequences, which may arise with time. For example, applying deontological ethical emphasizes adherence to ethical principles, rules, and professional standards. Ethical decision-making, and an ICT technologist must be involved in any structured decision-making process by considering various perspectives and alternatives. This would involve identifying the ethical principles and values at stake, weighing the potential risks and benefits, and considering the long-term impact of the different forces of the action. We went ahead and looked at the stakeholders' engagement. Here, the ICT personnel need to actively involve the stakeholders, including users, customers, employees, and relevant communities in the decision-making process. This would help ensure that their voices, values, and concerns are considered when addressing ethical dilemmas to avoid biases and discriminatory outcomes. Ethical guidelines and policies. Here, the ICT personnel should advocate for the development and implementation of clear ethical guidelines and policies within his organization or industry. These guidelines would provide a framework for ethical behavior and guide decision-making process related to the use and development of new ICT technologies, and this should be approved by the management committee.
Time up. Your 3 minutes are done.
Ethical training and education. Doctor, should I continue? We have
Just
to
summarize. Can you just summarize? Give us a summary of what it is your group wants to tell us about.
Okay, we are still
No, just you just no, don't read. Can you give us a summary? Because you have
Hello.
yes, please.
Okay. Let us summarize.
It's okay, I'm summarizing.
Okay.
We gave what, okay, why the ICT personnel should be considered in the process of
Milton, mute your microphone. I think Milton, Jude, Alvin, and Richard, you can mute your microphones.
BK, it's not me.
It was coming from you.
Milton,
It's
if you're not presenting, apart from our timekeeper, if you're not presenting, can you mute?
Okay, Doctor, as we conclude, we wanted to present why, okay, the conclusive discussion of how the ICT technocrat would handle the ethical dilemma, the ethical training and education, privacy and data protection, social responsibility. This can be maintained if the ICT technocrat is considered before introducing the new technologies. I submit, Doctor.
Thank you, Group A. Do we have any comment for Group A? Any comment? Thank you, Justin. I appreciate your presentation. I wish it wasn't so verbatim. I wish it was more of a discussion, a summary discussion. I think it would have shown better understanding on your side. But thank you for that. Could we have Group B? Group B, can we quickly come in? And please take note of time, 10 minutes. Thank you.
Doctor, good morning, Doctor. Good morning, colleagues.
Good morning to you.
Kindly confirm my screen is visible.
Yes, it's visible.
The timer is starting in under 2 seconds.
Cool, thank you. Displayed is our group members. We are 6, and to dive straight into the discussion, Doctor, the approach we took was to first explain what each of these theories means, just to show that we understood what these theories are. Utilitarianism, it emphasizes the idea of maximizing overall happiness or well-being for the greatest number of people. Wow. We saw that it is a consequential theory, and it moves from your personal happiness to the happiness of other people. Then the ontology emphasizes the moral rightness or wrongness of actions based on a set of rules or duties rather than the consequences of these actions. And we saw that by this, you're duty bound by evangelical principles, right and or wrong basis on a moral rule, and these rules can come from God, nature, or reasoning. And from the virtue ethics, we saw that this emphasizes the importance of personal character traits or virtues in determining behavior. And it is about choices and actions. And we saw that something it is something we consistently do till we pick up a good habit. And just to explain what a code of conduct is, it's a set of guidelines or rules that outline expected behavior and standards of individuals or groups within a particular organization or community. And basically, it serves as a framework to promote respectful and ethical interactions among in any environment. Then to apply the ethical principles to the 5 problems, we begin with the misuse of personal information. And in this case, utilitarianism would focus on the consequence of using personal information or the consequence of misusing personal information with a key focus on maximizing happiness and minimizing the harm for the greatest number of people. And the merits we see is that it safeguards it safeguards individual privacy and prevents problems that may be caused by information misuse, things like litigation, things like losing customer trust. And the demerits, we saw that it might overlook individual rights or privacy concerns for the sake of overall utility. Then deontology would emphasize on the inherent rights and principles involved, and it would provide the merit. Provides clear rules on respecting privacy and personal autonomy. Then the demerits is it would it has strict adherence to rules that may not address the complexity of situations or balance competing ethical considerations. When we look at that in terms of the virtue ethics, the virtue ethics would focus on cultivating virtues such as honesty and respect. And the merits is that it would encourage the development of ethical character and promote a culture of trust. The demerit in this case is that it may lack specific guidelines for addressing specific privacy concerns or determining limits of information usage. When we look at this now in the problem of misinformation and deepfakes, utilitarianism would assess the overall impact of misinformation on society and aim to minimize harm. The merits is that it can prioritize accuracy and truthfulness in information dissemination. Then the demerits that is that it may require censorship or restriction on free speech, which might limit individual liberties. In deontology, we see this would emphasize the importance of truth-telling and respect for individuals' right to accurate information. The merits is that it would uphold the principles of honesty and dignity. And the demerit is that it may face challenges when balancing conflicting rights, such as freedom of expression and preventing harm caused by misinformation. Alvin, you can, okay, sorry, just before Alvin, misinformation and okay, deepfakes. Now, if we look at this in the virtue ethics, it would encourage cultivation of virtues like truthfulness and critical thinking, with the merits of fostering culture of responsible information sharing and encouraging individuals to seek accurate information. The demerit is that it may lack specific guidelines on addressing complex issues like deepfake technology. So Alvin, please fall in. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Martin. I will continue. Next ethical issue is use of AI. So under utilitarianism, it would assess the overall consequences of AI use, considering the impact on efficiency, safety, and social well-being. Yeah, and then when it comes to the merits, it can prioritize fairness, minimizing biases, and maximize benefits for society. Remember, AI has a lot of biases, most especially biases which come with building it from its creators. So it tries to minimize those biases. The demerits, it may overlook individual concerns or rights to pursue overall utility. kindly go to the next, please. Next slide, please. So under deontology, it would emphasize principles such as fairness, privacy, human dignity when deploying AI systems. So here, the advantage would be we would have clear rules and principles to guide AI development and deployment. And then if the disadvantage would be we would struggle to balance conflicting ethical considerations or address complex situations. Next slide, please. Then under virtual ethics, would encourage cultivation of cultures such as fairness, empathy, and responsibility when deploying these AI systems. So it promotes ethical decision-making and possible use of AI. And then the disadvantages, it may require additional guidelines and regulations to address specific regulations. Next ethical issue is lack of oversight and acceptance of responsibility. So under utilitarianism, it considers the overall consequences of responsibility and oversight. The advantage is it prioritizes transparency, accountability, and the prevention of harm to stakeholders. Because remember, there is oversight and good communication going on. The demerit is it may require additional regulations and oversight that could be burdensome for businesses. Then under deontology, it would emphasize individual and collective responsibility in governance and data protection. So here it promotes, again, fairness, justice, and clear responsibilities. Then the disadvantage is it may lack flexibility in addressing evolving technologies, landscapes, or specific situations. Then under virtue ethics, it fosters, it would encourage the development of responsible and accountable behavior. Then the advantage would be it fosters a culture of ethical responsibility and integrity. This is a culture that has to be within the people who are responsible. And then the demerit is it may not provide specific guidelines for allocating responsibilities. Autonomous technology is the next ethical issue. So under utilitarianism, it would evaluate the overall consequences of autonomous technology, considering its potential benefits and risk. So the merit is it can prioritize safety, efficiency, and potential benefits to society. Here, I think it comes in when people are having automated vehicles that can, let's say, sense accidents and make sure that people are safer while driving. Then the demerit is it may overlook concerns related to loss of human control, potential negative impacts on specific individuals and groups. Under deontology, it would emphasize
Alvin,
principles such as human rights. Yes, please.
Just 1.5 extra minutes for you to summarize. Extra, the 10 minutes are done.
Okay. It would emphasize principles such as human rights, human control, and safety in the autonomous technology. Merits, it upholds individual rights and emphasizes responsible deployment. Then the disadvantage is it may face challenges when determining the balance between there's some noise in the background.
Giles, can you mute your microphone, please?
Well, can you go to the next slide, please? Under virtue ethics, it would encourage the development of virtues such as responsibility, accountability, and caution. Then the merit is it fosters culture
Please mute me.
Okay.
Oh,
Well,
my
it
phone
is,
is ringing.
then the disadvantage is it may require additional guidelines or regulations to address the complex ethical
Alvin,
considerations.
Alvin,
Let's
can you
just
just take a pause?
summarize the last 4
Yeah,
slides.
it's okay. Just take a pause. We're going to give you some minutes. Doctor, I'm requesting you can help me. You can make me a cohort so I'm able to meet people that distract the meeting.
Okay, let me do that.
Thank you.
Ivan, let's just summarize the last 4 slides.
Okay, thank you very much.
Oh, sorry, I made the person, sorry. It is Maweji I'm meeting.
Yes. Right. Sorry about that, guys. Alvin, please continue.
This is Ivan. I'm picking up from trying to summarize the last bit of handling ethical dilemmas as an ICT technocrat. When
It's
you
all
look
right.
at,
Continue in 1
yes,
minute.
Yes, I beg of 2 minutes. Now, new ethical problems regarding the use of technology and science and technology are always emerging based on based on the article that was given to us. And when it is right to use science and technology to apply to real life scenarios, and when does it impact human rights? Now, when you look at the 4 areas they mentioned, the emerging ethical dilemmas in science and technology, one of them was health tracking and digital twin dilemma. In here, I give an example in the Ugandan context. I look at rocket health that deals in so many things regarding to health and all other related issues here. Here, as a technocrat, as an ICT technocrat, one of the things I would do is definitely prioritize transparency and informed consent when it comes to using personal data, and also establish clear guidelines and regulations on how we control data, on how we get data, and also how we use it in relation to people's health. Then also, I would also adhere to implementing strict data protection measures. And still, all in all, as an ICT technocrat, when you look at the Data Protection Act policy in Uganda, it is something that probably all organizations need to actually follow or adopt within their operations, especially when it comes to data collection, storage, processing of and use of personal data for different entities. And when you go to the new technology and privacy, this one actually, for those who don't know, new technology refers to the application of technology to study and understand and interact with the human brain and nervous system. And when you look at this new tech, there's so many advances that are happening in the background, and basically this technology is meant to gradually change behavior of thought patterns, and this can actually pose so many things about privacy. And how would you, as a ICT technocrat, handle all this situation here? One is respecting privacy rights, which would be a very paramount importance, and I would advocate for robust privacy regulations that govern this technology. And also, one of the things that would include within respecting privacy is actually obtaining consent from whoever they're going to carry out this new technology on, and also ensuring data security, and also prohibiting unauthorized access to new data. So all of these still refers back to that Data Protection and Privacy Act. All these things are centered just around that act when it comes to privacy and data. The second point under the new technology is promoting public awareness and education. You know, for people who are not aware, organizations can misuse that information. So we have to look at the risks associated with this technology. That would be very crucial. Next slide, please.
Your time is up, though.
Oh, sorry. I'm just going to summarize these two. Now, when it comes to genetic engineering, would support cautiously responsible people. This would involve experts who, you get in touch with all these people and make sure that there are clear boundaries and guidelines for any genetic manipulation. There has to be clear public dialogue involving decision makers, making processes that will help that to ensure values and concerns accurately considered. Then when it comes to the weaponization of technology, which at times we call cyber warfare, yes, we need to advocate for international agreements, frameworks, establish clear rules on development and deployment of autonomous weapons and accountability for human operators. And lastly, would actually advocate for, next slide, please. Advocate for continuous evaluation and improvement to assess the ethical impact of these technologies, and also advocate for ethical standards, proper ethical standards in the different industries, the professional networks, and policy decision makers. So all in all, my conclusion would be, by adopting a proactive, multidisciplinary and ethical approach, ICT technocrats can navigate emerging ethical dilemmas, promote responsible technology practices, and contribute to the development of a more ethical and sustainable digital ecosystem. Thank you very much. I submit.
Dr. Shiba.
Thank you so much, Group B. What I really want to say, I appreciated was how you brought that different lenses as you discussed. Thank you for that. Could we quickly have Group C?
Thank you, Dr. Shiba. Presenting Group C, Vincent. Let me share the screen.
Time has started.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, it's visible. Now it's not. Now it's not.
Oh, sorry. Write down.
Vincent, just click on share screen and then you choose which screen you would want to share.
I'm clicking there, but I think my screen has issues.
Okay, Sharon has helped you.
Sharon, can you please share?
We can see Sharon's screen. Vincent, Sharon's screen is active. Are you able to see it?
Yes.
Okay, the time has restarted.
Okay, so presenting to you is Group C. And the members are Nachiwa Sylvia, Wambale James, Akelo Sharon, and myself. So the assignment is to discuss the merits and demerits of formulating codes of conduct around ethical issues of misuse of information, misuse of deepfakes, lack of oversight and acceptance of responsibility, use of AI, and autonomous technology under the lenses of utilitarianism, deontology, and the virtue ethics. Then we shall conclude by discussing the how we would handle the dilemmas that emerge from these new technologies and situations. So a brief introduction about the theories: utilitarianism, the ethical theory that focuses on consequences of outcomes of actions in order to determine their moral values. I will not go into details of that because of time. Then deontology, the ethical theory that focuses on the inherent nature of actions rather than the consequences. And virtue ethics, the ethical theory that emphasizes the development of moral character and virtues as the key to ethical decision making. Then the introductions about the ethical issues. We realize that when we are on internet and with the development of internet, when we are browsing and accessing a lot of sites, we have, for example, cookies that gather information about our personal data. So we look at how systems that gather that information can misuse it, and then misinformation and deepfakes. Deepfakes referring to photos or videos where faces have been swapped or digitally altered using artificial intelligence, creating fake images which can produce genuine looking results that appear to show someone saying something or doing something that they never really said. Lack of oversight and acceptance of responsibility. When managing organization data, use of big data, cybersecurity, and personal information. Then use of artificial intelligence. AI is the ability of a machine to display human-like capabilities, such as reasoning, learning, planning, and creativity. Then autonomous technology is any technology that can function and execute tasks without being controlled by a human. That is a brief introduction about the issues. Then we go to the merits for codes of conduct around misuse of personal information in line with utilitarianism. So one of the merits would be it focuses on maximizing overall happiness and well-being in the context of personal information misuse. A conduct formulated through a utilitarian lens would aim to protect individuals' privacy, ensuring their personal information is handled responsibly. Then under deontology and also promoting trust. Before going to deontology, promoting trust, I will just go through the main points. Also reducing risk. Then under deontology, the misuse of the merit of conducts of conduct around misuse of personal information under deontology is protecting of individual rights. Codes of conduct that outline clear expectations for protection of personal information can help protect individuals. Then it will also promote trust and which can help promote the trust between organizations and individuals. Then it would also deter wrongdoing. This is because deontology would focus on the importance of acting in accordance with the moral principles. Then under virtual ethics, codes of conduct can help promote virtuous behavior by stating the values that an organization holds very dear. Then it can also build trust when organizations demonstrate that they are committed to protecting personal information. Then it would also help to mitigate risk by setting clear expectations for employee behavior. Then the demerits around misuse of personal information. We see that utilitarianism may justify certain privacy infringements if they result in greater overall happiness. It can also be costly to implement in terms of its development and implementation. Then it can also be difficult to enforce. For example, if an organization has a code of conduct in place, it can be difficult to enforce it effectively. It can also be seen to avoid liability. Some organizations may see codes of conduct to avoid liability for misuse of personal information. Then in line with deontology, utilitarianism, this is mixed up. I will go to the next point. It can be costly, the development and implementation. I think here we made a mistake and we repeated this. I will just go to virtual ethics. Codes of conduct can be difficult to enforce under virtual ethics. It can be challenging to ensure that all employees are aware of and comply with the code of conduct put in place. Then it can also be seen as a way of organizations to avoid liability. Some people may view codes of conduct and around ethical values as a way for organizations to protect themselves from legal liability. Then codes of conduct around misuse of personal information may be used to restrict employees from expression or prevent employees from raising concerns about ethical practices. And then I also look at, I think, yeah, let me hand over to my next colleague on the merits of conduct around misinformation and deepfakes. Sylvia or Sharon, please take over.
Thank you, Vincent. I hope I'm clear.
Yes, you are.
Okay, thank you. Here we look at the merits for codes of conduct around misinformation and deepfakes. And under utilitarianism, the first point is that it reduces harm that these technologies could cause. For example, a code of conduct might specify that organizations should take steps to verify accuracy of information before sharing it. And then also it protects democracy of mainly the information that has been shared so that it's not manipulated, and it promotes trust, especially among organizations. And under deontology, it provides a strong basis for formulating a code of conduct that upholds the principles of truthfulness and integrity. It also promotes truthfulness and integrity, and it deters wrongdoing. Under virtue ethics, it promotes virtuous behavior by explicitly stating the values of an organization, and it helps build trust and also helps to mitigate the harm. That's under the merits. And the demerits for codes of conduct around misinformation under utilitarianism is that it may justify restricting freedom of speech and expression in order to prevent harm caused by information. And it can also be costly to implement by the different organizations. And it can also be difficult to enforce. And it can be seen to avoid liability, simply because the organizations need to adopt codes of conduct that are not truly committed to preventing the spread of misinformation and deepfakes. And under deontology,
Sharon, conclude. You've used 12 minutes. You can please conclude.
Okay, under deontology, it might be overly rigid and fail to address the complexities of addressing misinformation and deepfakes. It can be costly to implement and difficult to enforce. Under virtue ethics, the codes of conduct can be difficult to enforce, and it can be seen as a way for organizations to censor their speeches. And the merits of codes of conduct around oversight and acceptance of responsibility under utilitarianism, it supports a code of conduct that ensures proper oversight and accountability to make sure that the organizations are responsible for any information that they're dealing with. And it also prevents harm and promotes accountability and builds trust. Under deontology, it emphasizes the importance of ethical duties and responsibilities and protects the rights of individuals and groups. And under virtue ethics, it promotes virtuous behavior by explicitly stating the values that an organization holds dear. And the demerits under utilitarianism is that it may prioritize short-term gains over the long-term consequences. It can be costly to implement. Under deontology, it may lack flexibility and fail to consider the broader consequences of actions. And under the virtue ethics, it can be seen to avoid liability. The merits for codes of conduct around use of artificial intelligence. Under utilitarianism, it promotes safety and well-being and protects privacy and security. And under deontology, it protects the human rights and promotes fairness and non-discrimination. Under virtue ethics, it promotes safety and well-being and protects the security as well. The demerits for artificial intelligence is that under utilitarianism, it may undervalue individual rights and their dignity in favor of achieving utilitarian goals, and it can be costly to implement. Under deontology, it would emphasize the ethical principles and duties associated with the use of artificial intelligence. And under virtue ethics, the codes of conduct can be very difficult to enforce, and it can also be seen as a way for organizations to avoid liability. The merits for...
Time is up.
Just give me 3 minutes.
Under 30 seconds, you can draw your final conclusions. Thank you.
Sylvia, I don't know if you can join in and conclude. Sylvia?
But Dr. Shiba can guide.
Do we have, okay, I think you've basically used up quite a bit of time. Do you have, I know there's the summary on the, as a technocrat, can you just give us a summary of what your perspective is? Just a summary.
Okay, in conclusion, we came up with a number of points here of how we would, as an ICT technocrat, would handle the ethical dilemmas. Basically, I think we would adopt framework. We'll look at an ICT technocrat as someone who should adopt an ethical framework that can guide in all these principles of maybe you're using utilitarianism or deontology or virtue ethics to guide you in these ethical dilemmas that we are looking at and we've discussed previously. So basically, that's what we looked at as a team. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Group C. Again, also like your organization of your slides. Can we quickly have Group D? Quickly, Group D.
If the group is not ready, we go to another group.
Yeah, if Group D is not ready, can we go to Group E?
Group D. Oh, yeah, these people.
Maybe they don't know they are Group D since they weren't originally organized. Like,
let's go
Can
to
we go to that group? For us, we are ready. Can we present?
which group is that? E?
This is group 2. Are we group 2?
Sorry? Okay, but please go ahead and
I think any group can, I was thinking, Doctor, maybe any group can seize the opportunity to have maybe be called Group D or just that. Maybe we can make this group.
For us, we are ready. Can I go ahead? Is everybody able to see that?
Can you wait, please? Maybe we can, Doctor, I was thinking maybe this group can be named Group D instead of Group Q.
okay, let me do that.
Yeah, thank you. Lamek, the timer is ready.
Good. Good morning, everyone. This is our group. And this is our presentation we managed to put up. Just a second. Something, yeah. I hope everybody can see it very clearly. So the misuse of personal information, we started with the merits of formulating codes. The codes of conduct established ethical guidelines for handling provision information that is enhancing trust and fostering transparency between individuals or organizations and technology providers. They promote that is a better use of experience, improve reputation, and help individuals make informed decisions about their private rights and choices. Now, for example, if you look at the picture, there are passwords and other things. Then two, by highlighting the risks and consequences of misinformation and deep fakes, these codes can raise public awareness. You know, the public is always aware about the importance of verifying information and being cautious about the manipulated media. People have seen, I think we have a lot of wrong information going around. So multiple organizations and stakeholders come together to develop and adopt common guidelines. It fosters collective effort to address the challenges posed by misinformation and deepfakes. This enables the development of effective countermeasures and the promotion of consistent ethical standards across all sectors. There are three: lack of oversight and acceptance of responsibility. So we said by addressing the lack of oversight and acceptance of responsibility, these codes will acknowledge and respond to stakeholders' concerns. Wow. This builds stronger relationships and encourages collaboration, as stakeholders can be assured that the organizations are actively adhering to their ethical obligations. With reference to the codes, organizations can identify and address potential risks early on, reducing the chances of reputational damage, legal issues, or harm on individuals or society. So we take responsibility 100%. For use of artificial intelligence, of course, this is another crucial part of it. The code of conduct promotes transparency, which calls for developers and organizations to provide clear explanations on how all AI systems functions and make decisions. The code of conduct encourages developers to consider the potential biases and the discrimination risk associated with AI systems and take steps to address them, promoting equal treatment and avoiding unjust outcomes by emphasizing the importance of fairness and bias mitigation, all in IA development. And then number 5, which is last one, the code of conduct for autonomous technology. Code of conduct encourages collaboration and knowledge sharing among organizations and researchers working with autonomous technology. They facilitate the exchange of the best practices, that is the lessons learned, and ethical consideration, of course, by sharing knowledge and experience, as well as stakeholders can collectively address these challenges, refine the ethical guidelines, and promote continuous improvement in the field of autonomous technology. My colleague, Bonnie, can take over the demerits of formulating codes. Bonnie, are you ready?
Thank you, Lamek. We are looking at the demerits of formulating codes of conduct. One, under misuse and personal information, lack of adaptability. Codes of conduct may struggle to keep pace with rapidly evolving technologies and innovative ways of exploiting personal information. The static nature of codes can make it challenging to address emerging privacy concerns effectively. Additionally, personal information can be misused in ways that outside the purview of existing codes, leaving individuals vulnerable to novel threats. Here one, two, misinformation and deepfakes. Here, misinformation and deepfakes. Freedom of expression concerns. Codes of conduct formulated to address misinformation and deepfakes must strike a delicate balance between preventing harm and upholding freedom of expression. Here, deepfake is a form of artificial intelligence that employs machine learning algorithm to generate realistic media content, including audio, images, text, and others. Next slide, please. 3, lack of oversight and acceptance of responsibility, limited compliance adoption. Codes of conduct alone may not ensure widespread adoption and acceptance of responsibility. Some businesses may prioritize short-term gains over ethical considerations, leading to lack of compliance and accountability without effective mechanism to ensure adherence and incentive responsible behavior. Codes of conduct may fall short in achieving intended outcomes. Next slide, please. Ethical trade-off. The use of AI often involves ethical trade-offs such as balancing privacy and security concerns, or ensuring transparency and explainability in algorithmic decisions. Formulating codes of conduct may not adequately address these complex trade-offs. Organizations to make difficult ethical decisions without clear guidance. Here, for instance, a code of conduct might prohibit the collection of views of certain types of data, even if they could potentially yield valuable insights or improve its AI algorithm. This could stiffen innovation and hinder progress of AI research and development. Next slide, please. Autonomous technology, lack of human oversight. Autonomous technology such as self-driving cars or robotic weapons raises concern about the lack of human oversight and decision-making. Codes of conduct may struggle to establish clear guidelines for responsible deployment and decision-making by autonomous systems, potentially leading to unintended consequences or ethical violations. Here, for example, consider maybe a self-driving car that encounters an unexpected road closure due to maybe an accident. And a code of conduct dictates that the car should always strictly follow traffic regulations and not deviate from its predetermined route. Thank you. Next presenter.
Yes. Are you ready? Can you do the final thoughts on our conclusions?
Yes,
Ready?
please share that slide.
Okay.
Yes, I'm ready. Please share the slide. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. I'm Chiude Ronald, and I'm here to conclude with about the question that make a conclusive discussion on how you as an IC technocrat would handle the ethical dilemmas that emerge from the technology. So by referring to the established ethical frameworks and codes of conduct, one will be guided with principles for responsible and ethical decision making, so as to ensure that all actions align with recognized and ethical standards. So here we summarized everything based on the study cases given above, and we'll start with conducting ethical impact assessments and before implementing new technologies. This would be done through evaluation of potential ethical risks, social implications, and unintended consequences associated with the technology. Next slide, please. In this case, proactive measures can be taken to prevent. Oh my God. Excuse me, sorry. I've missed out on something. Anyway, so we would say one has to keep oneself updated on the emerging trends, technologies, and their potential ethical implications. No, don't worry. Share the next slide, please. Thank you. So the next slide, please. These are just brief. This is just an overview on the other point that I was explaining. So we continue keeping oneself updated on the emerging trends, technologies, and their potential ethical implications. And we have another point of conducting ethical impact assessments and promoting data privacy and security. So all these mentioned are ways that one as an ICT technocrat would be able to prevent the ethical dilemmas that would come through. And in conclusion, I would say by adopting these comprehensive approach measures, one can navigate complex ethical challenges and contribute to the responsible and ethical development and use of new technologies. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Group D. I think you've managed to keep time. Yeah, you've done well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Group D. Thank you for that timekeeping. Let's move to the next group, which we shall call E.
I think, Doctor, I think the next group should be Group E, right?
Yes, Group E.
Thank you, Doc. Francis.
Any group that is ready, please.
Hi, Doctor. I think we are Group G. And you already maybe can present.
Please
you
do.
can name yourselves to Group E.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good evening, members.
Good morning.
Good morning, members. This is Group G, and this is the list of our members. Please go to the next slide. Next slide, please. So we basically, in our group, we basically looked at the ethical theories, and we saw that the ethical theories provide a framework for analyzing and evaluating the moral dilemmas and guiding decision-making processes using the different lenses. We started by giving a brief description of the different theories, where we looked at the utilitarianism, which basically focuses on determining the rights from wrong, and its focus is mainly on the outcomes. And it's a form of consequentialism, and for it, it's premised on the choice that will produce the greatest good for the greatest number. On the other side, we looked at deontology, has emphasizing on the actions that are good or bad according to a clearly defined set of rules. Where we saw that within this theory,
it is morally obligatory regardless of the consequences to the human welfare. Then on the other side, for virtue ethics, this is a theory that deals with the honesty and morality of a person. It basically states that the practicing of good habits such as honesty, generosity, makes a moral and virtuous person. It guides a person without setting specific rules for resolving ethic complexities. So we looked at how we can apply these theories and using the different lenses to address the issue of code of conduct in respect to misuse of personal information, misinformation and deepfakes, lack of oversight, acceptability of responsibility, use of AI and autonomous technology. Go to the next slide. So I'll invite Faith to take on from here to explain how the ethical theories can be used in managing the codes of conduct in respect to misuse of personal information. Faith, please.
Good morning. Now, under misuse of personal information, misuse of personal information refers to the unauthorized or inappropriate use, access, or disclosure of someone's personal data without their consent or for their purposes. Next slide. Then we came up with some advantages of utilitarianism, and one of them is code of conduct. The code of conduct strikes a balance between respecting individuals' privacy. Then the second one was data is handled more responsibly when a code of conduct is formed. Then when a code of conduct is created, individuals will know what their information is used for. Then we also came up with some disadvantages of utilitarianism. And one of them is lack of emphasis on fairness and justice. Then there is sacrifice of individual rights for the good of others. Next slide, please. Then deontology. Deontology has some advantages when creating code of conducts, and some of them are, it creates a clear guideline, guidelines. Clear guidelines are provided for safeguard of personal information. Then there is also respect for privacy rights. The disadvantages are lack of flexibility and in addressing new technologies and practices. Then there is limited consideration of consequences. Then we went to virtue ethics. And under virtue ethics, there is personal responsibility. A code of conduct encourages individuals to take ownership of their decisions and recognizes the impact of their actions. So when a code of conduct is created, at least someone can take responsibility of that. Then the disadvantages of virtue ethics, there is limited guidance for complex and ethical dilemmas. This comes in when a code of conduct may not provide clear answers on how to balance conflicting interests. Then you have the next presenter, please.
Good morning, colleagues. I'll take you through the dilemma of misinformation and deepfakes. Here we started by first splitting what is meant by misinformation. Misinformation is the sharing of false or inaccurate information. This can be in form of maybe to just an error or by mistake. And also looked on the deepfakes. This involves of sharing of videos, images, and which are altered using some applications like Photoshop. So we looked on the advantages and disadvantages of the series that we have so far covered. Utilitarianism, we looked on one of the advantages. Using the one of the point is Utilizing ethical frameworks focuses on outcomes of the video and information and overall consequences of the society. So this theory, it looks on the outcome, which aims at looks on the outcomes of any theory. So we believe that formulating a code of conduct based on this one, since it looks on the outcome of that video, what would be the outcome of editing someone's video or sharing fake information? It will help us to prevent sharing fake information or sharing edited videos. Two, the utilitarian theory also looks at the bigger side of like aims at having more good than harm. So we believe that if we formulate a good formulate a code of conduct based on this theory, it will help us to prevent those the harm side of it resulting from sharing fake information, sharing misinformation or edited videos. Two, it is also it prioritizes the actions that leads to more informed society. So we believe like if the society know that if I do this one, it's wrong, and this is not. So if it means like the society will be knowing if I do this, it's going to harm the other one. So it has helped us to have informed society. We also looked on the disadvantages. One, determining long-term consequences of misinformation can be challenging because this one looks on the outcome or the outcomes of the action, but this action changes with over time. We can consider policy as of today, but this thing changes with time. Secondly, it prioritizes the outcomes at the expense of individual rights. As we said, this one looks on the what makes the most happy living the minority. So this one is its outcomes, it comes at the expense of other individuals' rights. We looked on the ideology. This one, basically, like my colleague explained it, it is only and only right. So this one looks on some of what is moral right. So it focuses on individual rights and decisions. Protect against manipulation and decision because you do what is only right. Light and consistency in ethical guidelines, protection of society norms and values, and long-term ethical consideration. Since there is already what is in the guideline, this is the right thing. So we believe that this one has a long-term ethical consideration that you can look at when you're making a decision. Two, it also comes with some disadvantages. One of that, it focuses on the principles and moral duties, which can present challenges when two or more duties come into conflict. I'll give an example from the recent homosexual bill that passed in the parliament. There is a conflict where we say everybody has a right maybe to use their body whatever they want, but now this bill comes in, you are not supposed to do this, which is there is a conflict of two bills. Two, may not provide clear guidelines on how to address emerging challenges. As this theory bases on what is moral right, but these ethical dilemmas, they change over time. They change over time. So it means there is no clear guidelines for the new dilemmas are likely to happen. It relies on fixed moral principles and duties. One, this one is likely to affect because you are just saying this is right. Like, I give an example. I remember in the class we had about the abortion as an example. We may find like the moral in our community, it is not right to do abortion, but maybe you find someone is still young and were just raped, but since the community is against that, you are not supposed to do that. Then we looked on the virtual ethics. One of the advantages is honest. We know virtual is all about improving yourself or excelling, which we have even intellectual and everything that you can learn. So this one we believe in honest, where we formulate a code of conduct based on virtual ethics, if that we expect honest, where it places a strong emphasis on honest and as a fundamental virtue. Transparency, responsibility, culture of trust, and developing moral character. One of the disadvantages is it is difficult in balancing conflict virtues. These virtues, they can change over time depending on the current need. For example, I can say in security, you may need to
protect data, and maybe some users look on the simplicity of using that system. I think this is a challenge where you find someone keep on forgetting password or sharing password, and maybe for them they think like it's good to share as a virtual, but as IT you are saying you're not supposed to share a password. Limited productivity and specificity, because here there is no guideline. You just maybe find like in IT you are missing something that you maybe you need to learn so that improve yourself. Lack of enforcement mechanism. There is no
Dennis,
clear
please
guideline.
give your final. Dennis, please give your final conclusions.
Sorry. Maybe I'll ask my colleague Dennis to come in.
Thank you, Dennis. If I'm to pick up from there, we looked at the length of ethical theories in terms of lack of oversight and acceptance of responsibility. Lack of oversight, we define it as the absence or insufficiency of monitoring, regulation, and control mechanisms in a particular domain or context. Then acceptance of responsibility pertains to the willingness and acknowledgement of one's obligation and accountability for their actions or decisions. Then we looked at the merits of utilitarianism in this context, and one, we noted the advantages. It maintains a focus on the bigger picture, since it does not mind the right or wrong of a given issue, but rather the overall consequences of it. Take an example, policy. Once introduced, it might affect some people, or some people may support it, but in most cases, or in almost all cases, it's for the betterment of the organization. In this sense, therefore, it ensures the issue of oversight and acceptance of accountability is enforced, even in the midst of minority opponents of the same. Then another merit is under utilitarianism, there is streamlined business processes, because the theory promotes streamlined business processes. It promotes that oversight and accountability, which is a good thing to do. And all parties in this case will be responsible for their actions and inactions. For example, in the case study, someone in charge of data protection is clearly defined, so it's not a gray area. Then the demerits under utilitarianism,
Conclusions, please.
Undermines the contribution of others. It's also a threat to classified information. For example, whereas in environments like the military, although oversight is a good thing, but may lead to exposure to classified information. Then under deontological, there's promotion of justice and fairness, as it's anchored. This theory is anchored on promotion of fairness and justice. Secondly, it enforces accountability for one's actions, which is based on clear set of rules. Then it promotes a culture of honesty. If there are any repercussions for one's wrongdoing, one accepts it, regardless of the consequences. Then the merits of this ethical theory, it's against a 360-degree reasoning. As for it, it disregards consequences, which can rather be disastrous. And then it's also, there's no flexibility, which leaves the individual with no chance to consider the circumstances or consequences of an action, since the set rules are rigid. Then lastly, regarding virtue ethics, the merits, it makes people base decisions on moral values. Then secondly, it allows people to reach their full potential. The idea of flourishing can make people motivated, follow the virtues, and in this case, accept responsibility for their actions. Then demerits, there's disregard of ethical dilemmas, since virtue ethics strives at making the individual a better person and instilling virtuous qualities in him. It does not really help when encountering an ethical dilemma. Then lastly, there's neglect of other cultural and societal rules. what may be a virtue in an environment may not necessarily be a virtue in another societal or cultural setup. Thank you. I invite Richard to pick up from there.
Your time is actually up. You've used more than 15 minutes. Unless Dr. Shiba guides otherwise.
Could you give us a summary of your conclusive discussion? Summary, just a quick summary.
I'd request Alice take us through this summary. Alice?
Thank you, Dr. Shiba. In summary, we were talking about what we need to check as IT technocrats with to just put in check the emerging dilemmas, ethical dilemmas, and we pointed out some of the things we would do, listed a few, the majority in the document. So yes, I would say it would carry out continuous education and awareness to just keep ourselves in check and know the emerging technology and ethical concerns associated with the new ICT innovations. The other one was engage diverse stakeholders, and here would actively seek collaboration with professionals like ethicists, policymakers, social scientists, to ensure a comprehensive and well-rounded perspective when making decisions. The other point there was to carry out privacy and data protection. In there would seek consent-based, would carry out consent-based data collection and anonymization techniques, and these would be prioritized to respect individuals' privacy rights. Then also would carry out transparency and would emphasize carrying out transparency and accountability. How we would do that is to strive to be open about the technologies being developed and the potential risks and benefits associated with them, and henceforth establishing clear lines of responsibility and accountability within organizations as a crucial thing to address any ethical violations promptly. The other point was to anticipate and implement continuous risk assessment. The other is user-centric design. Under user-centric design, would advocate for design principles that prioritize inclusivity, accessibility, and user control, and also engage with diverse user groups through user testing and feedback loops so that we help keep in check the ethical issues that would emerge. The other point would be to use of ethical frameworks, standards, and policies. Here would adopt and promote the use of established ethical frameworks, such as the principles of beneficence, autonomy, justice, and non-maleficence. Yeah, that's in conclusion some of the points that would continuously practice and do to ensure that the new technologies have an ethical touch to them. Thank you very much, Dr. Shiba, and everyone for listening.
Thank you so much. This was Group E. Really appreciated, especially your conclusive discussion. I see now, I hope we are beginning, we appreciate ethics in ICT. Now, I hope we're now beginning to see the relevance of ICT, of ethics in ICT. Could we have the next group? This would be Group F. Group F.
Yes, good morning, everyone. Let me first share. Yes, so this is our group, Group F, and we are 5 members. And this is our work. So we try to look at 2 theories, deontology, which emphasizes making ethical decisions on moral principles and duties, and we also briefly looked at utilitarianism, that emphasis number. So we try to connect all our work with these two theories, as you're going to see. And so we went ahead to give the merits. Sorry. So in our first ethical dilemma, we gave the merits on formulating the codes of conduct about maybe misuse of the personal information. And the first merit is the protection of privacy. These codes of conduct can help protect individual privacy rights by establishing guidelines and standards for the responsible handling of personal information. So this can foster trust between individuals and organizations, ensuring that personal data is collected, stored, and used in a secure and ethical manner. So the second merit is looked at improved accountability. So once we put these codes of conduct in place, we can establish mechanisms of accountability in cases of where there is misuse of personal information. So organizations can adopt these codes of conduct, require measures, and provide remedies in case of data breaches and unauthorized access. And then we went ahead and looked at the enhanced transparency. So here, codes of conduct can promote transparency by outlining how organizations gather and use personal information, this can empower individuals to make informed decisions about sharing their data and enable them to understand the potential risks and benefits that are associated with providing personal information. Then we also continued with looking at the clear guidelines of data usage. So these codes of conduct in place can provide clear guidelines for organizations on how to handle personal information, which includes specifying the purpose of why maybe this data is collected, because you have to explain to maybe subjects why you're collecting their data. So of course, this can give a clear guideline on that. Then you have clear guidelines on data usage, because whenever you're going to use maybe people's data, you have to outline maybe how you're going to use them and inform them how you're going to use their data. So these codes of conduct in place can help streamline that. And then when we look at the demerits, so we see that there is a limited coverage of awareness. So when trying to implement these codes of conduct in place, of course, so this means that all entities handling personal information are bound by the same standards, leaving room for potential gaps in protection. Additionally, the general public may have limited awareness on specific codes of conduct, which can lead to hinder their ability to make informed decisions about data sharing. So the second demerit is the variability in standards. So different codes of conduct may have varying standards and interpretations, leading to inconsistencies across data protection practices, so which can create a confusion for individuals and organizations. Then there's also lack of enforceability. Yeah, one of the challenges is that there is unlike laws and regulations. So I think here it would be really hard to ensure that maybe all bodies really abide by the codes of conduct that have really been put in place, and to be really not easy to ensure that the enforceability is really efficient enough. So we also went ahead to look at the potential of abuse. So we see that in some cases where codes of conduct can be exploited by organizations to create a appearance of responsible data handling without genuinely prioritizing privacy. Then I think my colleague Jeff can expound more on this second ethical dilemma. Yes,
thank you, Francis. Ladies and gentlemen, we are also asked to talk about merits of formulating codes of conduct around misuse of information and deep fakes as an ethical issue. First one, trust. Having clear codes of conduct can contribute to building trust among users, fostering consumers and the general public. Then encouraging collaboration. Codes of conduct can serve as basis for collaboration among different stakeholders, including technology, companies, media, organizations, researchers, and etc. Then establishing ethical standards. Codes of conduct can provide a framework for setting ethical standards and expectations in the context of misinformation and deepfakes. This can help guide individuals, organizations, and platforms to act responsibly. Then guiding decision-making. Codes of conduct can as well offer guidance to individuals and organizations when facing ethical dilemmas related to misinformation and deepfakes. They can help ensure that decisions and actions are aligned with principles of accuracy, transparency, and the public interest as well. And of course, this one falls under utilitarian. Then the merits can go to the next slide. The merits. Next slide, boss. Francis. Okay, the merits, enforcement challenges. Enforcement challenges. Another one is complexity and subjectivity. Developing codes of conduct for misinformation and deepfakes can be complex due to the evolving nature of technology, the one which it is ever changing, and the variety of scenarios involved. Then lack of universal consensus. Developing codes of conduct for misinformation and deepfakes may face challenges due to differing perspectives and conflicting interests among stakeholders and etc. Then balancing freedom of speech and and the censorship concerns. Codes of conduct aimed at combating misinformation and deepfakes need to strike a delicate balance between addressing harmful content and preserving freedom of speech. You can go to the next slide. Francis, you can talk about this, then I'll end with the dilemmas, the ethical dilemmas.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. So lack of oversight and acceptance of responsibility as an ethical issue. So there's the first merit is accountability. Then these codes of conduct can establish clear expectations and responsibilities of individuals and organizations by of course, addressing the lack of oversight, which can foster culture of accountability, ensuring that actions and decisions are transparent and subject to scrutiny. So there's also trust and reputation. These codes of conduct can enhance trust between stakeholders, including the customers, the employees, and then the general public. There's also ethical decision-making. These codes of conduct provide a working framework for ethical decision-making by, of course, outlining principles and standards to guide that behavior. Then the compliance and the regulations These codes of conduct can align with the legal and regulatory requirements, which of course it's promotion of compliance within the relevant laws and standards. Then when we look at the demerits, we see that there's ambiguity and subjectivity. So in formulating these codes of conduct around oversight and responsibility can be challenging due to the complexity of ethical issues. So there's also lack of enforcement. Merely having codes of conduct in place does not guarantee that there's effective implementation and enforcement. And then, of course, there's also cultural and contextual differences. So these codes of conduct should be sensitive to cultural and contextual variations across different regions and industries, organizations. What may lead to considered acceptable oversight and responsibility in one context may not necessarily apply everywhere. So,
Francis,
there's also limit. Yes, please.
Your time is up, but yeah, you have 2 extra minutes for you to finalize and give conclusions.
I beg you, add us 2 more minutes.
The 2 more minutes are for you to finalize and conclude.
All right. All right. So there is also limited effectiveness without education and training. So we can proceed to the next, which is artificial intelligence. I think, Jeff, you can tackle this one and then we finalize.
I request you go straight to the ethical dilemmas. Straight. Francis, scroll very fast, ethical dilemmas. Francis, very fast. Can go to ethical dilemmas. Go to part 2.
I think he may have a connection problem. Oh,
Yeah, we are there. Doctor, we are there. We are asked as information technology technocrats to tackle on this and how would handle the ethical dilemmas below. And as technocrats, would prioritize the following ethical codes of conduct. The first one was healthy tracking and digital twins, informed consent and data ownership. Individuals should have the right to provide informed consent before their healthy data is tracked and utilized for creating digital twins. Then education and empowerment. It is essential to educate individuals about the capabilities and limitations of health tracking technologies and digital twins. This includes providing clear explanations of how the data is used and potential benefits and the associated privacy considerations. We can go to conclusion. Go to the next slide, conclusion, the last, very fast, Francis, conclusion. Because of time, Francis. Francis, please. Yes, we concluded when you look at that slide, it is important to address males and males when formulating codes of conduct around the above technological or technology ethical issues. A multi-stakeholder approach involving experts, policymakers, industrial representatives, ethicists, and the public can help ensure that these codes reflect diverse perspectives and strike an appropriate balance between ethical principles and technological advancement. And regular review and updates of codes of conduct are necessary to address emerging challenges and keep pace with the ever-evolving technology. Also, by adopting the above strategies, IT technocrats can navigate the ethical dilemmas that emerge from new technologies and contribute to the responsible and ethical development, deployment, and use of IT systems for benefits of society as a whole. We beg to submit, Doctor.
Thank you, Group F. I noticed you missed out virtue, but still thank you for that good that discussion. Could we quickly have Group G? Is Group G there? Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Is my screen visible?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, this is Group J. J. And those are the members. So the question was the merits and demerits of establishing ethical codes of conduct against the scenarios that were given. And we began by defining codes of conduct as established rules, values, standards, and principles outlining what to expect from a specific group of individuals. Also, as an overview, we looked at what we understood by utilitarianism as good outcomes for the majority and deriving maximum pleasure out of a certain choice of action. And from a deontology perspective, we looked at being duty-bound against established laws or that are known, while from virtue-based, good characters of a person to guide their decisions that have been developed over time. So we went ahead, so we listed our points based on what we thought would fall in one of the three categories that we have been given. We realized that not everything can be characterized under all the three theoretical perspectives. So where we found it necessary, the theories apply, we listed the corresponding merits and demerits. So we began with misuse of personal information. Personal information, as a quick description, is any information that is specific to you. It can include your email address, it can include your PIN number, social security number, and everything, and even your location. So as a merit, we found that consumers availed with these products of interest through pop-ups and adverts. The consumers can have products of interest, so it is a merit. As a second point, businesses can expand into markets by making products known to the internet users. So that is also an advantage. Then consumers are availed with a wide variety of products, and they can make an informed choice that are relevant. Then the other point we looked at is since information is customized for a particular consumer, they don't have to worry about decision making. So advertising relevant information simplifies the purchase decision making. So also we looked at that many businesses emerge with a goal of maximizing sales. So this is an advantage for a limited few people who are actually the businessmen. So you can see that is a utilitarian kind of like advantage. Then also we looked at from a duty-bound perspective. That is the point that is the third point on the slide. That most users have before some of these websites request you to first agree to terms and conditions against using their website, and therefore when you accept and you continue using their products, it means you're duty bound. Rather, the owners of the website, like maybe Facebook, they are duty bound. They are doing their role. So that is an advantage in their perspective, from that theoretical perspective. From there, we went and looked at the demerits of misuse of personal information. The first one we came up with is violation of privacy, because in some jurisdiction that EU, there is the GDPR Act that protects people against misusing personal information. So this, we found it as a violation, and therefore from the theories that we looked at, when you look at virtue-based theory, it's a demerit. When you look at the second point, information misuse leaves the user vulnerable, as their safety is left in the mercy of those whom the information has been extended. So with the increase in insecurity, such as kidnapping and identity theft, evidence planting, one cannot be sure when they are safe. So that is another disadvantage that we looked at. Then also fraud. Fraud was another thing that we looked at. Now, when you look at a fraud from using web-based fraud, the fraudsters, to them, it's, I mean, they derive pleasure. They derive pleasure, and that is a hedonic theoretical perspective, which to them is okay, but actually, if you look at it from a perspective of financial loss, in the other perspective, it is a loss, but in the other perspective, it is a demerit. Then the next one is about
Francis, you've used half the time.
Come again?
You've used half the time.
Okay, let me kind of hurry up. Okay, let me just go to the conclusion. Okay, actually, one other thing I wanted to point out is we made the conclusion for each area, then we eventually made an overall conclusion. So the conclusion here, we say, where terms and conditions have been set, users should make conscious decisions ahead of using the services that require usage of their data collected. Explicit consent should be sought from the end user, and deontology ethical perspectives shall be followed. So that was our conclusion in that perspective of misuse of personal information. Next, we looked at the merits of misinformation and deep fakes. So the first one was we looked at in situations where there was misinformation is a form of citizen protection. So you can see that from a utilitarian perspective, they are justifying their action. It is they are spreading wrong information, but actually they are trying to protect the information as they are reestablishing the security of the country in order. So that's point number one. Point number two, deep fakes is crucial in entertainment, where it enables entertainers to add drama to events that would originally be difficult to make out. And I think this one comes out from when they are making movies and maybe things like multimedia. It is not exactly deep fake, but it is an advantage from a hedonic perspective. So it comes in handy. So let me rush and go to the demerits of deep fakes. Deep fakes can be used by criminals to fabricate information and content that can result in injustice, such as imprisonment and impeachment of innocent people. So you can see that from a deontology perspective, deep fake is bringing problems. Instead of following the laws are instead reversed. So that brings a problem to the population where deepfakes are the order of the day. Then there is a very important point here where many people are misled, especially when it comes to elections. Projections and opinion polls cause voters to make wrong decisions and vote for wrong candidates. This really is a demerit when you look at it from a virtue-based perspective, because good characters and morals will be violated. Then information that is supposed to go through a validation process is not validated, because we have established organizations that validate this information. So if it is not validated, when you look at it from a deontology perspective, where people are supposed to be duty bound, like for example, media houses, they're supposed to validate the information which they throw out to people. So deontologically, it is a demerit. So the conclusion from deepfakes is, from a virtue-based theory, a society that is built on lies and manipulation is not sustainable, because eventually the truth is exposed, even if it takes a long while. As an ICT technocrat, designing trusted systems, tools, and services is vital. And this can only be achieved by continuously practicing habits such as honesty and justice consistently, so that you increase the likelihood of making better choices. For example, I would include fact-checking mechanisms, validation to weed out all rogue actors, also the use of validation badges against information sources. For example, when you look at Twitter, Facebook, they validate so that the source of information is credible, because at the end of the day, we as ICT technocrats, we cannot hide away from the fact that we are on the side of ICT, but at the same time striking a balance. So that is how we arrived at that conclusion of including validation mechanisms, so that the products and services we come up with are used and accepted by society. So next is lack of oversight and acceptance of responsibility.
You have 3 minutes.
Oh, okay. Let me try to hurry up. Okay, lack of oversight and acceptance of responsibility. Oversight, in general terms, is about leadership and source of origin of information. So when you look at the piece that we're given, from a natural intuition of responsibility, of everyone or society is supposed to look to make things better. So if everyone strives to make things better and being responsible on how they use data, it is a merit. That's how we looked at it from a virtue-based perspective. Then the second point is clear terms of association that have been established for responsible parties in the case of mishaps. Today, many organizations have set up alliances on working on the terms of operation and the way in which they're going to use their data. So when you have such guidelines from the deontology perspective, there is a high chance that you gain acceptance and therefore better oversight and responsibility. So the demerits of lack of oversight, we've seen loss of clients when they fail to take responsibility. As you remember, a hedonic perspective is about avoiding pain and utilitarianism. So when you look at it from a utilitarian perspective, it is a disadvantage because it will cause pain. Then some actions are supposed to be duty bound. In other words, we're supposed to be responsible for our actions, but if they are not followed, so deontologically, still there we see a downside. Conclusion of lack of oversight and acceptance of responsibility. As an ICT technocrats, end users should only use tools from companies with established governance structures and mechanisms so as to guard against data breaches and associated insecurities. Therefore, they should follow deontology duty-bound rules for considering safety first. So that is how we arrived at the conclusion of lack of oversight, because we based ourselves on deontology to ensure that ICT tools are used continuously.
Can you draw your final conclusions on the whole?
Okay, let me rush to there is use of AI, autonomous technology. Okay, overall conclusion. our overall conclusion was the use of ICT technologies is here with us to stay. However, there are several times it comes to crossroads to establish norms, cultures, and ways of doing things that vary from one perspective to another. What is morally correct or wrong varies from place to place, and therefore cultural sensitivity should be respected to a certain extent, and continuously practicing virtue-based good characters can be a good guide to greatly reduce most ethical dilemmas with minimum effort. Following an end to justify the means can only lead to continuously putting on calamities caused by consequentialists' decisions. So with that overall conclusion, that's what we managed to come up with. I think time has not been on my side. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you very much, Group G, I think.
Group J.
Group J. Thank you. Okay, can we have the next group? Do we have a next group?
Francis, you can stop sharing your screen, please. Francis, please stop the screen share.
Stopped.
The next group, please. Is there another group?
I think there's no other.
Okay, we are done. Eh?
There is. Clement.
Okay, okay.
Clement is going to present.
Okay.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, Clement. Your timer will be running.
Yes, good morning. Can you hear me?
Seconds.
Please confirm. Mr.
We do
Maweje.
hear you.
Okay, because of time, I'll represent my colleagues and we present what we came up with when we went through the document. So the ethical issues in the current technological environment. Information technology ethics is the study of ethical issues arising out of the use of the development of electronic technologies. Its goal is to identify and formulate answers to questions about the moral basis of individual responsibilities and actions. The rapid progress of technology brings forth a host of ethical issues that demand attention and thorough engagement. Privacy, fairness, accountability, transparency, and the impact on society well-being are among the key concerns. So basing on the theories, the ethical theories, utilitarianism, deontology, and virtue ethical theories, we studied the current ethics issues in technology and came up with the merits and demerits. Then we also came up with recommendations as IT technocrats on how we can overcome these ethical issues. So one of the ethical issues that we identified was the misuse of personal information. This involves the improper and unethical treatment, exploitation, or revelation of an individual's personal data without authorization or consent. So briefly, that's it. And the merits, we are looking at the ethical codes helping to regulate the misuse of personal information, not regulating and limiting sharing someone's information without their consent or authorization. The demerits, the misuse of personal information can infringe on an individual's rights to privacy, and it can lead to unauthorized access and surveillance and exploitation of personal data without someone's consent. So as ICT technocrats, we recommend avoid submitting your personal information on public networks, being careful and conscious when you're accessing different networks that are not safe, routine system network audits, routine user credential changes to avoid, to limit, that will help in limiting sharing of personal information, using different security systems, firewalls and antiviruses. So we go to issue number 2, which is the misinformation and deepfake. Misinformation and deepfake refer to false or inaccurate information that is shared or spread through various mediums of such as social media, news outlets, or word of mouth. So when we set codes of conduct, this will regulates the use of deepfake in entertainment, but still it will allow it allows the freedom and it allows the freedom for individuals to remain creative and sharing information, but regulating them from using the deepfake that will affect an individual negatively. So the demerits, misinformation and deepfakes can spread false or misleading information, leading to confusion, distrust, and social polarization. This can have serious consequences, particularly in areas such as public health, political and emergency situations. Deepfake can be used to create fabricated content that harms an individual's reputation or causes social harm. It can lead to defamation, cyberbullying, and harassment. So as IT technocrats, we recommend that for us to overcome this, we promote media literacy and critical thinking education, establishing reliable fact-checking resources, and recommend that when AI algorithms are being developed, we implement stronger content moderation so that not each and every content is shared without moderation, and it's assessed before it's shared with the society. Participate in creating ICT legal and policy frameworks that regulate information sharing on different platforms. So issue number 3 is lack of oversight and acceptance of responsibility. This issue refers to situations where there is a failure to adequately monitor and regulate actions, and a reluctance to acknowledge accountability for consequences of those actions, which involves disregard for the need to supervise and control processes, behaviors or systems. So the merit, this is creating codes of conduct allows for innovation and flexibility. And when we looked at the demerits, the ethical and legal violations, when you put up ethical codes of conduct, this can bring in some sort of a limitation on legal violations. When looking at we're looking at for example, having a Visa card, when you conduct a transaction using a different bank system, and you're withdrawing from a different bank, and you have some of sort of an API that integrates the system, you might fail to, every party might fail to acknowledge where the error came from. And I think we need the codes of conduct have to come in clearly to set who is responsible for who is responsible for, okay. Lack of oversight and acceptance of responsibility can lead to unethical behavior and violation of laws and regulations. It can result in harm to individuals, communities, and societies at large without accountability or resource. The lack of transparency without proper oversight and responsibility decision-making processes can become opaque, making it difficult to understand how algorithms, systems, and technologies function. This can undermine trust and hinder public understanding. Okay, as IT technocrats, we would overcome this by strengthening regulatory frameworks, promoting transparency and accountability, establishing independent establishing independent audit bodies, coming up like with IT committees where they can do investigations in case of any incident, provide education and training to staff, and encourage collaboration and information sharing. So another issue that we identified was the misuse of AI and autonomous technologies. AI can be misused to spread information or fake news. This can have serious consequences for public health and safety, as well as for democracy. Yeah, we have seen a lot of information being shared on social media, generated when you use some of those AIs, some of the information that they give you, if you don't evaluate it, you might end up being misled. So the use of AIs can lead to sharing misinformation, which can be a health problem. Someone shares wrong health information. So coming up with ethical codes of conduct, AI and autonomous technology have a potential to streamline processes, automate tasks, and improve efficiency. So the use of ethical codes of conduct can streamline the way this information is shared through the AIs. The demerits, one of the demerits of AI is misuse of the job displacement. The human being is looking at AI as a threat to it when it comes to job placements. So it's coming up with an ethical code of conduct will streamline how AIs are going to support the human to improve and to be efficient.
Clement?
Clement? In conclusion,
yeah,
while the ethical practices and technology ethical practices in technology bring numerous benefits, there are ongoing challenges and risks that require ongoing attention and ethical decision making to ensure responsible and sustainable use of technology. So basically that's our submission, and thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Mwaji, okay.
Do you have something else?
No, it's okay. I just wanted to know that I was still audible, clear and clear.
Yes, you are. Thank you very much for that presentation. Do we have another group? Do you have another group? Was that the last group? So I think that is it. So first of all, thank you very, very much, all of you, for the work you've put in. I'm going to go ahead, when Justin sends me the name, the groups, I will input them in Moodle. Then please go ahead and upload. One of the things I have noted, especially some presentations were really, really good. One of the things I've noted is your application of ethics into the IT world. I really hope that this particular assignment showed you the reality of ethics in IT. It can sometimes seem like this is we are in a world, it's a different world, and ethics and IT don't relate. But I hope this course unit has done that. And there was somebody the last time we met who asked me about the ethical framework. I think you can see, you've already seen that you are actually using an ethical framework because you are looking through different lenses for different ethical dilemmas and how you could possibly make a judgment call on the different ethical dilemmas that were presented to you. I think there was someone who asked last week. I think you can already see you are actually using a framework in this situation. Now, I thank you very much for this presentation. I don't know if there's anyone who wishes to make a comment. No, everyone is tired. It has been over 2 hours of presentation. Okay, I want to thank Maweje so much for his support in this presentation. Thank you so much, Maweje. Everyone, I hope you note, yes, and then I hope everyone notes that all recordings are up now on Zoom, sorry, on Moodle, so you can access all previous recordings. And I'll also send this one to Emma as well. So Justin, I'll be waiting for the group distribution, and then Emma will send this recording hopefully tomorrow.
All right, Doctor, thank you.